From the shadowed corners of history, humanity has always sought to glimpse what lies beyond the veil of the present. We have cast runes, read the stars, and gazed into the depths of crystal and flame, desperate for a whisper of the future. But not all instruments of scrying offer hope. Some, born of shadow and despair, reflect only ruin. Today, we open the Grimoire to the chilling legend of the End's Gaze, an obsidian mirror that offers no reflection, only the agonizing certainty of one's final, most horrific moments. The mirror's origins are debated in fragmented texts. The most common tale speaks of a cabal of shadow weavers in a forgotten epic. Obsessed with cheating destiny, they sought to bind fate itself to their will. They performed a ritual under a lightless moon, pouring their own despair and terror into a perfectly polished slab of volcanic glass, cooled in the blood of a captured oracle. They did not create a tool of foresight, but a vessel of predestined horror. The first recorded victim of the End's Gaze was King Theron IV, called the Ambitious. He ruled a prosperous kingdom but was consumed by fear of his rivals. Hearing tales of a mirror that could reveal the doom of his enemies, he had it brought to his castle. The artifact was stark and cold, a void of polished night set in a tarnished silver frame, intricately carved with screaming faces and skeletal limbs. Believing himself clever, King Theron commanded his most hated rival's name to be spoken before the mirror. Nothing happened. Frustrated, he dismissed his court, and in the solitude of his chamber, he approached the artifact himself. As he stared into its depthless black surface, he expected to see his own regal reflection. Instead, the darkness swirled, and an image began to form, not of glass, but of blood and fire. He did not see his present self. He saw a man who wore his face, but twisted in agony, crown askew, betrayed and alone. He watched himself being dragged from his throne by his own guards, their faces contorted with rage. He saw his trusted advisor, a man he had known since childhood, holding a bloody dagger. His final witnessed moment was the sight of his own kingdom burning from the window of his throne room, a vision of absolute failure. The vision shattered, leaving only the black glass and the king's hyperventilating reflection, which quickly faded. But the damage was done. The knowledge became a poison. He grew deeply paranoid. The next day, he had his advisor publicly executed for treason, an act that shocked the court and planted the first true seeds of rebellion among his nobles. In his madness to avert the future he had seen, King Theron forged it. He alienated his allies, imprisoned his most loyal generals, and bled his kingdom's treasury to build impossible defenses. His tyranny grew from a seed of fear into a forest of hate, and the rebellion he had imagined became real. It ended as the mirror had shown. His own guards, tired of his madness, turned against him, and his kingdom fell, burning under the smoke of his self-fulfilling prophecy. The mirror vanished during the sacking of Theron's capital, only to resurface decades later in the possession of a noblewoman, Lady Alara. Widowed and childless, she became obsessed with her own health and longevity. She acquired the End's Gaze, believing it would warn her of any coming illness or accident, allowing her to live forever. Peering into its depths, she saw her own body, pale and bloated, tangled in seaweed at the bottom of a murky, silent seabed. The vision was of a drowning. Terrified of water, Ilara abandoned her coastal estate and moved to a secluded manor in the center of the arid plains, miles from any significant river or lake. She forbade even cups of water in her presence, drinking only wine. For years she lived in her dry sanctuary, convinced she had outwitted fate. But a curse finds a way. A once-in-a-century storm rolled across the plains, a deluge of rain so intense that it caused a flash flood, washing away roads and homes. Her manor, situated in a slight depression, became a basin. The floodwaters broke through the doors and windows of her sealed home, and Lady Ilara drowned, alone, in the very prison she had built to save herself. The pattern became the legend. A vainglorious knight seeking to prove his fearlessness looked into the mirror and saw himself trampled to death by a panicked horse. From that day on, he refused to ride, becoming a foot soldier. His end came not in battle, but in the city, when a merchant's cart, pulled by a horse, spooked by a stray dog, ran him down in the street. The mirror does not lie, and fate is patient. Scholars who have studied the grim chronicle of the End's Gaze debate its true nature. Does the Obsidian truly show a fixed, immutable future? Or is it a more insidious monster? Does it instead plant the suggestion of a death so horrible that the victim, in their desperate attempts to flee, carves the very path that leads directly to it? The madness it induces becomes the architect of the doom it displays. The End's Gaze is now lost to the annals of history, hopefully buried deep in some forgotten ruin or resting at the bottom of a lightless abyss. Its legend serves as a solemn warning. There are secrets in this world that are not meant for mortal minds, and some knowledge once gained becomes a cage. When one stares into the abyss, one must be prepared for the abyss to fashion an end for you.